Have you ever felt that sudden shift? One moment she's warm, engaged, laughing at your jokes, leaning into the conversation, and then, almost without warning, something changes. Her replies slow down. Her energy feels different. She seems distant, colder, harder to read, and now you're stuck in your own head. Did I say something wrong? Is she losing interest? Is this the beginning of the end? Here's the truth most men never hear. Her distance is not always a sign that she's pulling away from you. Sometimes it's a sign she's getting closer than she expected to. It sounds contradictory, but this is one of the most misunderstood realities of attraction. When a woman begins to feel something real, something emotionally intense, it can trigger caution. Vulnerability is powerful, and with power comes risk. The closer she feels to you, the more aware she becomes of what she could lose. So what does she do? She slows down. She creates space, not to escape, but to process. This isn't a game, it's not manipulation. It's her mind trying to measure the depth of her own emotions before she fully steps into them. And here's where it gets important. How you interpret her distance will determine whether attraction deepens or disappears. Because while you're wondering if she's losing interest, she may be quietly wondering if you're strong enough to handle hers. In this video, we're going to decode that paradox, so you stop overthinking and start responding with confidence instead of fear. Now let's go deeper into what's actually happening beneath the surface. When attraction is casual, everything feels light and easy. There's no pressure, no risk, no emotional exposure. But the moment feelings begin to intensify, something shifts internally. Attraction triggers vulnerability. Vulnerability triggers fear, not fear of you necessarily, but fear of emotional risk. When a woman starts to genuinely care, her mind doesn't just celebrate the connection, it evaluates it. It asks questions she may not even consciously recognize. Is this safe? Can I trust him? What happens if this doesn't work out? The stronger the feelings, the greater the perceived risk of loss. And the human mind is wired to protect itself from emotional pain. So what looks like distance on the outside is often emotional processing on the inside. She may pull back slightly to regulate her emotions. She may slow communication to avoid overwhelming herself. She may appear less expressive while she sorts through feelings that are growing faster than her comfort level allows. This is not manipulation. This is not strategy. This is self-protection mixed with desire. There's an internal conflict happening, a quiet tension between wanting closeness and fearing exposure. She wants to move toward you, but she also wants reassurance that doing so won't cost her emotional stability. And here's what most men misunderstand. When she creates space, she's often observing your response, not to test you maliciously, but to assess emotional safety. If her distance causes you to panic, pressure, or chase, it confirms that vulnerability might lead to chaos. But if you remain grounded, calm, and consistent, you signal something powerful. I'm stable. I'm not shaken by emotional intensity. That stability reduces her fear, and when fear decreases, attraction has room to grow naturally. Understanding this changes everything. Now let's talk about the dynamic that confuses almost every man, the push and pull. One day she feels close, the next day she feels slightly distant. One moment she's emotionally open, the next she seems guarded. It feels inconsistent, but in reality, it follows a pattern. When emotional closeness increases, so does vulnerability. And when vulnerability rises, the instinct to regain control often appears. That's the pull, not because she wants to leave, but because she wants to steady herself. Here's how it usually unfolds. She feels connection. Emotions deepen. Intensity rises. She steps back slightly to regulate. That small retreat isn't rejection, it's recalibration. And during that recalibration, she becomes observant. She watches how you handle uncertainty. She pays attention to your emotional reactions, not consciously scoring you, but subconsciously measuring stability. Do you become anxious? Do you demand reassurance? Do you overcompensate with attention? Or do you stay composed? This is where most men make the critical mistake. They interpret the pullback as loss of interest and rush to close the gap. They send longer messages. They seek clarity immediately. They try to fix something that isn't broken, but pressure kills tension, and tension is what fuels attraction. The push-pull dynamic isn't a game to win, it's an emotional rhythm. When you resist the urge to chase and instead hold your center, something powerful happens. She feels less pressure. Her guard lowers naturally. The space you allowed becomes the space she chooses to close. Attraction doesn't grow through force, it grows through emotional balance. When you understand the rhythm, you stop reacting to the pull, and you start becoming the steady force she unconsciously moves toward. Here's what's really happening when she pulls back. She's not measuring your words, she's measuring your emotional stability. And emotional stability doesn't mean being cold. It doesn't mean pretending not to care. It doesn't mean playing games or withdrawing to create jealousy. It means staying grounded when things feel uncertain. When emotions intensify, most people look for safety, not excitement, not drama. Safety. And safety is communicated through consistency, not intensity. If her distance causes you to spiral, overthink, or change your behavior dramatically, it signals emotional dependence. It tells her that your mood is tied to her reactions. That creates pressure. But if her distance meets calm confidence, steady tone, natural communication, no visible panic, something powerful happens internally for her. She relaxes, because now she senses that being close to you won't create emotional chaos. It won't turn into volatility. It won't require her to manage your feelings while trying to understand her own. Women are highly perceptive when it comes to emotional shifts. They notice subtle changes in energy, a slightly tense tone, a passive-aggressive message, a forced attempt to appear unaffected. All of it communicates something. True emotional stability is quiet. It doesn't need to announce itself. It looks like giving space without resentment, maintaining your routine, responding, not reacting, staying warm, but not overcompensating. When you remain centered, you send a message stronger than any declaration of interest. I am steady, I am secure, I am not shaken. And that steadiness becomes the foundation where her hesitation slowly transforms into trust. And trust is what turns attraction into something deeper. Now let's shift your focus to something most men completely overlook. When she creates distance, you tend to focus on what's missing: the faster replies, the constant attention, the obvious affection. But what actually matters are the small signals that remain. Because when a woman is emotionally invested, her connection doesn't disappear. It becomes subtle. Watch the details. Does she remember something you mentioned casually days ago? Does she bring up a story you told in passing? Does she reference an inside joke only the two of you share? That's not random. That's emotional tracking. Pay attention to body language when you're together. Does she mirror your posture? Match your tone? Hold eye contact slightly longer than necessary? These are unconscious signs of connection. Mirroring happens naturally when attraction is present. Notice how she engages when you're not demanding attention. If you stay relaxed and focused on your own life, does she initiate small check-ins? Send something light or playful? React to your stories? Those are not the behaviors of someone detaching. Look at her emotional reactions. Does she tease you lightly? Get slightly curious about other women around you? Show subtle concern for your well-being? These micro-expressions of care reveal investment, even if her communication tempo shifts. Distance sharpens attention. It doesn't erase it. Another important sign: timing. If her pullbacks happen right after meaningful moments, deep conversations, vulnerability, laughter, or closeness, that's not coincidence. That's emotional regulation. It means something mattered enough to affect her. Men often expect loud validation, constant reassurance, clear verbal confirmation, but emotional depth rarely announces itself loudly. It whispers. And if you're only listening for declarations, you'll miss the signals that truly matter. Her subtle consistency, even during moments of distance, is the real indicator. Shorter texts don't cancel remembered details. Slower replies don't erase emotional curiosity. When you shift your attention from what she temporarily withholds to what she consistently maintains, clarity replaces confusion. And that clarity changes how you respond, which changes how attraction unfolds. Here's something that feels almost unfair, but it's incredibly important to understand. Very often, her distance shows up right after things start feeling deeper, after a long, meaningful conversation, after a moment of vulnerability, after laughter that felt effortless and real, after physical closeness or emotional intensity. And that's exactly why she steps back. When connection deepens, emotional risk increases. The more she enjoys you, the more she feels the possibility of losing you. That awareness can trigger a temporary instinct to slow things down. It's not a loss of interest, it's an attempt to regulate intensity. Human emotions don't grow in straight lines. They expand, pause, adjust, and then expand again. When feelings accelerate too quickly, the mind often taps the brakes to regain balance. Think of it this way: closeness amplifies vulnerability, and vulnerability requires safety. If she feels herself getting attached faster than she expected, she may create space to ask herself, is this real? Am I ready for this? Can I trust where this is going? That space isn't about leaving you. It's about protecting her emotional stability while her attachment forms. Most men misread this timing. They think everything was going well. Why the sudden shift? But the shift often confirms that something meaningful just happened. When you recognize that pullback after closeness is a pattern, not a problem, you stop reacting with fear. You allow the rhythm to unfold, and that patience is what keeps the connection alive instead of suffocating it. Now let's talk about where most men unintentionally sabotage everything. When she pulls back, your emotions spike. You feel uncertainty, and uncertainty triggers the urge to regain control. So what do most men do? They overtext. They ask for reassurance. They demand clarity. They analyze every message. They send long emotional paragraphs trying to fix the situation. But here's the uncomfortable truth. Those reactions don't create security. They create pressure. When you respond to her distance with anxiety, you confirm the very fear she's trying to manage. You signal that emotional intensity leads to instability, that closeness equals drama, that vulnerability creates chaos, and attraction cannot grow under pressure. Another common mistake is playing reactive games, going silent to punish her, trying to provoke jealousy, acting artificially detached. These behaviors don't demonstrate strength. They communicate insecurity disguised as control. Women are highly perceptive to emotional shifts. Forced indifference feels different from calm confidence. One feels tense, the other feels steady. Desperation pushes. Jealousy manipulates. Over-explaining weakens tension. But calmness stabilizes attraction. When you rush to eliminate uncertainty, you remove the emotional space where desire develops. Attraction thrives in emotional balance, not forced clarity. The paradox is simple. The more you chase reassurance, the less secure she feels. The more you demand answers, the less freedom she experiences. And when freedom disappears, attraction fades. Understanding what not to do is just as powerful as knowing what to do, because sometimes the strongest move is simply not reacting at all. Now let's talk about what actually works. When she creates space, your power is not in chasing her back. It's in how you carry yourself during the space. The first principle is simple. Respond. Don't react. Reacting is emotional. Responding is intentional. If her replies slow down, you don't double text. If she seems slightly distant, you don't interrogate the shift. If she takes space, you allow it, without changing your core energy. This doesn't mean becoming cold or unavailable. It means staying steady. Keep your communication natural, light, unforced. Maintain your routines, your goals, your social life. Let your world continue moving forward. When you show that your emotional state is not dependent on her immediate attention, something shifts internally for her. She feels less pressure. And with less pressure, her attraction has room to breathe. Here's what calm strength looks like in action. A short, confident reply instead of a long emotional explanation. Giving her space without resentment. Engaging warmly when she reaches out, but not overextending. Matching effort without overcompensating. It's subtle. But subtlety is powerful. Emotional leadership isn't loud. It's controlled. You don't try to manage her emotions, you manage your own. And when she senses that steadiness, that you're not shaken by temporary distance, she relaxes, her guard lowers, her curiosity increases, because now she sees that being close to you doesn't mean losing control. It doesn't mean chaos. It doesn't mean emotional overwhelm. It means stability. And stability is magnetic. The moment you stop trying to close every gap and instead trust the rhythm of connection, you become different from most men. You become someone who can handle intensity without collapsing under it. And that's when distance stops feeling like a threat and starts becoming an opportunity for attraction to deepen naturally. Now let's elevate this to a deeper level. Why does calm confidence have such a powerful effect? Because attraction is not just about chemistry. It's about emotional safety combined with mystery. When you remain steady during uncertainty, you communicate three powerful signals without saying a word. You trust yourself. You are not emotionally dependent. You can handle intensity without losing control. That combination is rare. Most people react to emotional shifts, very few regulate themselves through them, and regulation is attractive because it feels secure. Humans are naturally drawn to stability in moments of emotional fluctuation. When her feelings are rising and she senses your grounded presence, her nervous system relaxes. And when relaxation replaces fear, attachment deepens. There's also another layer most men miss: mystery. When you don't rush to define everything, when you don't demand constant validation, you allow curiosity to grow. She begins wondering about you, thinking about you, filling in emotional space with imagination. Desire grows in space, not pressure. Calm confidence creates that space. It tells her, I am here, I am steady, I am not chasing. And paradoxically, that's what draws her closer. You become the emotional anchor in the dynamic, not because you dominate it, but because you stabilize it. And when stability meets rising attraction, something magnetic forms. Not forced, not dramatic, but powerful. That's when distance transforms from something that scares you into something that quietly strengthens the connection.